Hey, Fanboy Nation.
This is your pal Daffy Duck, and you're watching.
We're watching Fanboy.
A fanboy, etc.
Fanboy Nation.
Dot, I assume Tom.
You know what? There's nothing more punk rock than being American, because we rebelled against the entire planet and monarchies and everything else. And we still got to love that punk rock attitude as we get along in this day and age. Today, I am talking with Kevin James Barry about his latest documentary, Gridlock, going on tour with the Briggs. Kevin, how are you today?
I'm doing great, Robert. How are you?
I am great, man. I cannot complain. Listen, the film comes out on iTunes and I believe in limited release February 15th. Pre-orders in the next 48 hours. Start getting those orders in now. You know, we want to make this a hit and we want to bump this up on iTunes as much as we can.
Thanks for the intro, Robert.
Oh, man, listen, you know, punk rock, I equated America to punk rock because that is the punk rock spirit of just giving the finger to the establishment, although the establishment in a political sense, that's something else, is doing their own thing. But, you know, historically, it's giving your finger to the establishment. It's standing on your own 2 feet. It's being your own person. And, you know, that's what we're going for with this documentary. I mean, you followed them for 10 days. Like, how did this all come about?
Yeah, I had been a fan of the Briggs since I was really young, since I was like 18 or 19. I was kind of in the punk rock scene back in Boston for a while. And I caught the Briggs playing a show at the Middle East club in Boston. And I talked to Joey for a while after the show, bought him a beer and talked to him about possibly donating some of his music for a feature film that I was making at the time, this action movie. And he agreed and we kept in touch. And after I moved to LA, I started shooting music videos and rehearsals for him and his side project, Joey Briggs. And then after a long hiatus, the Briggs decided to go on a tour after releasing a new EP. And they asked me to go along and do photography and run the merch desk. And I said, yeah, sure, I'll do that. And I'll also bring my video camera and I'll shoot a bunch of things. And I think I kind of surprised them when I told them, like, hey, I'm going to actually film everything on the whole tour. I don't think they were really expecting me to shoot a whole documentary on it. But I think in the end, they were happy that I did.
So was it like guerrilla filmmaking? It's just you and the camera?
That was it. Yeah, I just had a little Blackmagic pocket cinema camera and a mic attached to it and as many batteries as I could carry and a little laptop for offloading the footage. And it was just, yeah, it was kind of a one-man show the whole time.
So you still went full punk rock even in making the documentary?
Yeah, that was definitely the way we had to do it. It was very DIY, very guerrilla style for sure.
So this is very seat of your pants, you know, like, hey, I'm going to go hang out with the band. I'm going to run the merch table. We're going to hang out for 10 days. Let's turn it into an entire documentary.
Yeah, it's kind of how it went. I also had a lot of footage just kind of accumulated over the years of shooting with Joey and the Briggs for music videos and rehearsals and that sort of thing. I would catch an interview with him and just, you know, shoot what I could when I could over the years. So after the tour, I figured I'd really have enough footage to cut together a documentary that spanned, you know, my time working with them.
Well, dude, you pulled something off that I would have never expected. It was basically a pocket camera and a handful of batteries. So congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Yeah. People don't expect, like, you know, like rockers, punk rockers, metalheads, you know, rappers, anybody that's like in that middle finger to society crew to sit there and be home. And, you know, we're not going to give too much away, but feeding their daughter a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, you know, while discussing their tour plans. Like, how important was that to show the family aspect of the band now in comparison to who they were 20 and 25 years ago?
Yeah, I think that was a huge part of it. I think that's definitely an interesting aspect of some bands that are in the punk scene, that they're not all just debaucherous, you know, crazy people. Some of them certainly are, but this band is a very professional, got their shit together type of band, and there are also a lot of family members in there, husbands and fathers. And it was interesting for me to see, you know, their one of their primary focuses on tour was to just stay in touch with their family and, you know, keep making phone calls, get on FaceTime, tell their kids and their wives that, you know, they'd be home soon because they missed them.
And this was a relatively short tour. I mean, this is a 10-day tour. but still, a week and a half gone is time lost with your kids. So playing that aspect up, I think is the wrong turn of a phrase, but more so, showing that aspect of who they are off stage was really important to the documentary, so people would get a feel for them.
Yeah, I think it does paint a picture of their character in a very short amount of time, what their priorities are and what they care about. And I also think it's juxtaposed against the lifestyle of being a musician and wanting to live a creative life and wanting to be on the road all the time and pursue your dreams, and also having to balance that with the responsibilities of family. I hope that, the film brings a unique perspective to anybody who has to balance those things out.
Well, I mean, you touch upon in the documentary, Joey has that struggle of, wanting to be that world famous, renowned rock star that basically couldn't leave his house without the paparazzi showing up. And then also falling short of that. But, these guys did have a career and still do have a career that is warranted not only a documentary, but recognition as professional musicians that are worth going and seeing live.
Yeah, I think that was the other really interesting aspect of it is, as a creative person, how do you define success? And at what point do you say, hey, I've done it. I can be satisfied with myself. I can be satisfied with my career. I think the Briggs is definitely a very successful band, especially for a punk band. They did many tours. They did big tours. They toured with big bands. They went over to Europe and all over the world. And still to see Joey as a creative have a sense of dissatisfaction and yearning for more, I think a lot of people that, dedicate their lives to a creative pursuit will be able to identify with.
Yeah. Todd McFarlane, one of the founders of Image Comics, revamped toys with McFarlane Toys and everything else that's out there, created Spawn, all this stuff, was asked one time, are you happy with your success? And he said no, because he would trade it all to have played one season of Major League Baseball. And, I saw that aspect in Joey, because with Todd, it was like, look how much you created, in the 30 years of Image Comics, revamping the comic industry, revamping the toy industry, doing all this stuff, and you give it all up for one season of baseball. It kind of see that in Joey's perspective of, we could have been as legendary as, the Pistols or the Ramones or anybody else. And yet he has a notoriety that some people would kill for, yet to him, it doesn't seem that he's a successful person.
Yeah. That goes back to that point of like, where do you say to yourself, I've done it? And can a creative person ever actually reach that point? And is there any value in it? Because if you say, hey, I've done it, what do you do then? Do you say like, oh, well, maybe I should move on to a different art form, or do I just retire? Personally, I agreed with it. I mean, I could identify with that a lot myself, having been able to do a lot of great projects so far, but also feeling like it's never enough. You've always got to like strive for more and bigger and better things.
Yeah. Does it almost come to the aspect of like, if you've had your Citizen Kane moment or you had your Sgt. Pepper album moment, that where do you go from here? Should you just hang it up because you hit the zenith and everything seems like it'll be downhill from there? Or do you just keep going forward and being a creative person, whether it's, or at least knowing that it would never be as big of a hit as your previous success?
Yeah. I think you've got to just, ultimately people have to do what makes them happy. And I think even if you never really reach that point of feeling completely satisfied, the pursuit and the journey has to be something that you find satisfaction in. And I think Joey does kind of come to that revelation in the film and about his career, that it's not all bad, and he's had a lot of good success. He's reached people, which is an important thing to get to affect people in an emotional way and get to connect with them through music is definitely one of the main goals of his. And I think the goal of any artist is to reach your audience.
This film, it's a little different for you in this regard, because you started off as a fan, you became a friend, and now you have to remove yourself from the equation and become documentarian eyewitness. How difficult is it to go through those three different transitions in being a part of the Briggs in this storytelling?
It it kind of all transitioned, I feel, pretty easily. Joy and I got along really well when we first met, and I think we saw eye to eye on creative issue matters. Like we were talking about movies and music, and we built some rapport over that. And in working together, we've always kind of just I think agreed creatively, or he gave me the creative freedom to do what I felt like was right with the video aspect of things. And shooting the documentary, obviously I had to ask some hard questions, so that was challenging. But one of my professors in Boston at school said, if you're going to shoot a documentary, the biggest, most important thing to do is to not be afraid to ask the hard questions, because that's what's going to lead to the great answers that people are going to actually be able to relate to.
It is difficult because the notion of sitting there and you're a friend and you don't either want to rock the boat or you don't want to find something out that could potentially ruin somebody's image, I think is always difficult in being a storyteller. Was there ever a moment of that going on, or is like, no, let's be as real and raw as possible?
Yeah, I definitely I felt the need to not misconstrue anything that I saw or witnessed or filmed, obviously, or take anything out of context. I wasn't really worried about ruining anybody's reputation, because all the guys are great, and I don't think that they would do or say anything that could, be taken as a terrible thing. They joke around a lot, and sometimes if you edit jokes in the wrong way, it'll come across as something other than a joke. So I had to be careful in that, and just to make sure that their intent and their sense of humor was portrayed accurately. But generally, I wasn't really concerned about doing anything that would misrepresent them or be taken the wrong way in general.
Well, I'm glad that you were able to separate yourself from artist and as a filmmaker and friend in order to find that balance.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that you picked up on that.
Yeah, because it's always difficult when something like that happens, and I'm thrilled that you were able to do it, and you did them justice in telling the story. But there has to have been something, 10 days, it doesn't seem like a long time, but again, there's 24 hours in a day, and there's so much that's going on. How do you decide when to turn the camera off and just be in that moment versus, let me go grab the camera, start that story over again?
Yeah, there's definitely, you have to find a rhythm, and one of the rhythms I picked up on is just the cyclical nature of being on the tour. Is that everybody gets in the van, they travel, make some pit stops, get out of the van, load in, hang out at the show for a while, have some drinks, they play, and then we load out, get back in the van and drive all night. And that's just that over and over and over again. So I realized that things kind of got interesting, and people got lively whenever the van stopped and we would get out and take a pit stop or load in. Obviously I shot the shows and that sort of thing, but after the van had been going for a while, people would settle down and take naps. So it was usually when the van came to a stop, that's when I knew I had to fire up the camera, because people are going to wake up and actually start talking and bullshitting.
There's always something that has to end up being left on the cutting room floor, and especially when you whittle it down to 90 minutes to 2.5 hours, depending on how much time you have. What's one thing that really stuck out to you that you wish you could have incorporated into the documentary that just didn't fit the flow of how things were going in the story?
That's a good question. I think the things that I wish I could have included were actually bits of Joey performing with his brother and doing side projects that didn't really have much to do with the Briggs proper as a band, but they were really great, little vignettes of him working with his brother on musical projects that were not the Briggs. I think that would have been nice to include, but it was just a little bit too much of an offshoot from the Briggs as a band and the tour. the story of that band. So I wasn't able to include that stuff. But a lot of that stuff I wound up putting on YouTube anyway, so it's out there.
On the bright side, we got a sequel coming, right?
Yeah, hopefully. We got to get the band, we got to get the Briggs out playing shows again. So we'll see.
Now, you filmed this prior to the world falling apart, I presume, because San Francisco was on lockdown for quite a while. LA has been on lockdown for quite a while. So that transition from pre-pandemic to coming towards the tail end of it, what have you seen perspective-wise of what was going on with the band then to something societal now and what their future shows would look like?
Well, the Briggs are back in a hiatus sort of state. They are moving into kind of different side projects. Joey has started a new band called Vintage War, which I just shot a music video for, so we're still filming things together. Jason is doing sound engineering. He's got his own studio now for big Hollywood films, and yeah, they're taking care of their families and that sort of thing. So we'll see if they get back together as the Briggs to do more touring. Hopefully, crossing my fingers.
Yeah, Kevin, we mentioned that this is coming to iTunes and there's going to be a pre-order. Talk to us about the desire to be on iTunes and doing a pre-order versus regular VOD somewhere else, or just straight theatrical release.
Yeah, well, we got a nice offer from Gravitas Ventures, so they picked up the film for distribution, and it's going to be available on a lot of different streaming platforms, but iTunes is going to be one of the first places to get it. And from what I hear, it's got a very great, high quality HD download that you can get. So it's going to be available for pre-order soon, and after that, on February 15th, it should be available on all the other streaming channels that we got onto.
Well, you guys are in good hands with Gravitas. Those guys put out a lot of fun, either independent films or documentaries, and it's stuff that actually have like gritty storytelling that you want to pay attention to. It's not just all, flash bang stuff.
Yeah, I'm really excited to be working with them. I'm honored to be on their roster of films too.
And, with iTunes being the early release in comparison to some of the other places, was that something that was more desirable to start with them, or did anybody else offer you something from the get-go and go, oh, we'll release, we'll do a pre-release as well?
The details of the distribution, I'm not sure. I know that the iTunes pre-order is important for the algorithms, basically. That way it gets better placement. So they said, try to get as many pre-orders as you can. That'll help our placement in iTunes, and that will lead to a more successful run for the film.
Well, I will definitely be linking everybody to the iTunes pre-order on this interview as well. I want you guys to succeed, especially when you put out a documentary that's just fun, raw, and realistic without trying to either overinflate somebody's ego or just trying to do a fluff piece. And you do neither of the two. You tell a straight story that's entertaining, that's heartfelt, and that's actually enjoyable for an audience, whether they like punk music or not.
Yeah, I appreciate that you picked up on that. I'm really hoping that it's accessible and valuable for anybody, any moviegoer, anybody that's into music or the creative lifestyle, not just punk fans, not just Briggs fans. I'm hoping that it'll be able to, make people connect with the struggles and the lifestyle of being a creative type.
Well, I think that's the success of a film, is that even if the genre of music doesn't speak to you, the story and the humanity within that story is what really matters. And if you can get touched by that, that's more important than the chords being strung.
Exactly.
Yeah. Kevin, you've done action movies, you've done documentaries. What's down the pipeline for you as well, since they have their side projects? I'm sure you've already started storyboarding out your next ideas.
I did. My new producing partner, Ryan McGuffey, saw the trailer for the Briggs documentary, and he had an idea running the back of his mind to do a documentary with our mutual friend Jesse Hughes of Eagles of Death Metal. So he brought me on to this, and we've been shooting a new documentary on the band Eagles of Death Metal. We just got back from England 2 months ago, and we shot a lot of great stuff on their last tour. So I'm looking forward to shooting more of that and getting that out hopefully this year.
Good. You just got one more documentary for me to check out.
Yeah.
You know, I do have to ask, Gridlocked, how did the name come up? You know, was
it's
it like
actually
an
the name of one of their
organic name?
songs. Yeah, Gridlocked is the name of one of their songs. I felt like the message of feeling stuck and just not being able to move forward really kind of made sense for the message that you know, the place that Joey was in at the time that we were doing those interviews, and how he felt about the music industry. So, and also the idea of just being on the road, just being stuck in traffic, Gridlocked made sense as a title for me.
Especially on the 405 and the 101.
Yeah, exactly. People in LA can relate.
Kevin, with every film somebody makes, they learn something new about themselves. And I would assume documentaries are no different, because it is an educational experience. What did Kevin Barry learn about Kevin Barry while making this documentary?
That's a good question. I think I personally really resonated with what Joey was talking about, with satisfaction, with you know, being ambitious, and how you calculate success, and at what point do you allow yourself to be satisfied with what you've done. I've kind of struggled with the same things, and it was really great to talk with somebody whose career I really admire, who I have a lot of respect for, express the same concerns that I've had, and just kind of made me feel like I must not be the only one who's got this kind of burning ambition to always strive for more.
I dig it. Listen, Kevin, it's Valentine's Day, or the day after, rather. Documentaries available. Why do people need to check out Gridlocked on tour with the Briggs?
Well, I think anybody who's a creative type, who might have a burning ambition, might be able to relate with this film. And also fans of the band, I think, are going to really like it, because it's a really intimate portrait of a punk band on the road. And it makes a great Valentine's Day gift.
I dig it. Kevin, where can we find you on social media, and where can we find the film as well?
So the film is on Instagram and Facebook at the Briggs Doc, and mine is at Kevin Dangerously.
Kevin Dangerously. I like that. Yeah. And
Yep.
Kevin James Barry is a great name. Do you ever get Kevin James the comics mail by accident?
Say that again?
I said, do you ever get Kevin James the comics mail by accident?
Oh no.
Yeah.
Not yet. We'll see.
Because I just spoke with Drew Waters, who's an actor, and then there's Drew Waters, who's a baseball player, and I'm just like, do you guys ever get that crossover by any chance?
Yeah, maybe one day I will.
Maybe you'll get a residual check by accident.
I would not be angry about that.
Kevin James Barry, thank you so much for your time, man. Gridlocked on tour with the Briggs, available for pre-order soon, and being released on February 15th from Gravitas. Congratulations on the documentary. It's been a pleasure chatting with you, and it's a great watch. So congratulations on pulling something off so smoothly in 10 minutes with a pocket cam and a handful of batteries.
Thanks for the thoughtful questions, Robert.